Psychiatry, I'm sure, will do a great business, and psychology as we go through the next phase where people start to get picked up and simply disappear out their homes, all thanks to governments and government policies. And initially, as I say, the neighbours will say, well, they must have done something wrong because the government would have done it otherwise, until they see too many getting picked up, and it might even be themselves, you see. And we'll all be in the same little cell as Winston was with his next-door neighbour. And his next-door neighbour will say, stay away, Winston, they caught me. I'm a thought criminal. I didn't know it myself. It was my daughter that found out. Thank goodness she caught me before I got worse. And then you see that Bush even had wanted to test for psychological problems amongst the general population. Right out of 1984. Right out of 1984. Then they can prevent you. See, everybody potentially under the law, and law enforcement can only take you to the same stage eventually. To keep everybody safe, you can have no rights whatsoever, obviously, because we're all just too stupid to have rights. So there has to be a law about everything. And there pretty well is today. So we're getting hemmed in by laws and compliance with laws and the necessity, ritual of showing that we're complying with laws, which takes away all rights, all decision-making, in fact, goes out the window under the pretense of keeping us safe. And that's what's taught in law enforcement. It can't go in any other direction, in fact. So it's only natural in a time of control freaks. The main control freaks get to the top. They see the other departments using it, from military right through, and then they all go on a roll to cash in because they think it's a free-for-all where they can pass any kind of law they want and get their way, which they do for a while. That's traditional too in history. They do until there's so much chaos with all their cross laws and different departments standing on each other's toes that eventually it starts crumbling and falling apart. And they try and deal with that with even more horror and terror rather than take a good look at themselves, causing the problem in the first place. During the Inquisition, we saw the Church, which was a big, powerful force at the time, the Roman Catholic Church. We saw that going on a rampage. Whole villages were called out when the Inquisition arrived in Europe. And you were given a chance to confess as a whole village, they'd say, we know there's people here who've been thinking about or doing black magic, you see, or practicing Satanism. So if you tell us right now, we'll go easy with you. If you don't, and we have to torture out of you, well, you'll be damned forever and you might die too. So people would start making up stories right there and then on the village square and coming out with the most outlandish things, taking their little punishment, a few strokes of the whip, repenting and asking forgiveness and yada yada. And if enough of them did it, it might satiate the sadism within these inquisitors, and they'd hear all the confessions and give them their benedictions and go home, or go to the next town or village. And it's a sad, sad state when that happens. Well, you see, the American Psychological Association for years has gone along the same path as that, as has the police. The American Psychological Association has been trying to determine who will be a criminal, and then that started really with them when they were part of the eugenicist movement under the Rockefeller Foundation in the 1920s. It's now called bioethics committees. It's much more gentler and society orientated, but it's the same thing. If they can just look at someone or look at their blood or their DNA or whatever, they might just be able to tell you how you're going to end up, catch you before it happens, and program you, you see, indoctrinate you into who they want you to be, rather than let you allow yourself to come to what you'd like yourself to be by yourself. So So the American Psychological Association has said many times in their publications that everyone's a potential criminal, which is true if you go straight by legalism and the terms of legalism. If it's a crime to defend yourself, if someone's going and trying to kill you, and you defended yourself, then technically, yeah, you're a criminal. And since everything that lives, even mice, will scratch the noses of cats if they're cornered, they're trying to fight to the last. A rabbit will bite you if you put his hands down his burrow to protect his young. Well, they're all criminals, you see. So you can make any natural action a criminal action, and they have been doing this piecemeal, little by little, for the last 20-odd years. So until they make you the new world Soviet man, which is just a robot, basically, who's predictable, then the world can't be safe. And all we have to give up is the right to think for ourselves, react as any living creature should react to save its own life. That's all we have to do is give that up and kiss the ring of the king, and they'll go easy with us.
Psychiatry in all of this time doesn't have one case report of one disease validated, not one. What they do is they meet at the American Psychiatric Association. They meet in the DSM committee, Diagnostic Statistical Manual Committee, and they vote on making new behavioral and emotional disorders, and they vote, and then they start immediately calling them diseases. And they tell people, they tell the public these are diseases. Total fraud. Total fraud.
The actual truth about chemical balance is that it's an actual lie. Nobody has yet measured, demonstrated, or created a test to show that somebody has a chemical imbalance in their brain. Period.
What the American public should be thinking about is when they or their loved ones or their friends have received a psychiatric diagnosis, they should be asking the doc, geez, doc, where's the chemical test for that? Where is the objective test for this? And I guarantee you that they'll be told, we don't have a chemical test for that.
There are no biological tests for any mental illnesses that I'm aware of.
There are not current available tests to verify your diagnosis.
There is no test. There is no specific test to differentiate between, let's say, schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Not a single test.
Yeah, we have not really confirmatory test for the diagnosis.
There is no test, there's no biopsy you can do that says this person is depressed, this person is bipolar.
We don't have anything really currently to identify mental illness per se.
No, there are no specific tests to confirm the diagnosis or show the improvement, like any blood tests or any x-rays or anything like that.
Oh, in my practice I don't do any tests. I just speak with people and listen to them, and then I make a decision in what kind of illness there should be.
We don't really have any specific blood tests or other tests that are definitive for any mental illness whatsoever.
What kind of biological tests do we have available today for detecting mental illnesses?
None.
There is no rational science behind what they think is the cause of these symptoms. The medications that are being given to people are, without exception, introducing chemicals that are altering the brain in ways which can be very damaging. And I'll go a step further and say that in the absence of a proven chemical imbalance for which the medications are, quote, rebalancing or fixing, the medications are in fact toxic.
How many patients have you been able to cure so far?
I would say one.
How many people have I cured? Well, there are no real cures right now in psychiatry.
Yeah. The idea of you asked me about the issue about how many people I've cured. I don't know that any of us are ever completely cured of anything.
I have not been able to cure many patients.
I have cured none of my patients.
So you have to ask the classic Roman question, legal question, cui bono, who benefits? The people who make the diagnosis.